Welcome back, everyone. This is part 3, the final part for today. Should be the final part for Monday, June 24th, 2013. I'm Darko. My website's ggnonline.com. Go check it out. On YouTube, DDarko2012 and DDarko2013 on my YouTube channels, and the link should be posted by tomorrow evening. Lawmakers skipped NSA briefing to attend Paris Air Show. So 2 lawmakers skipped a recent high-level briefing on NSA snooping so they can go to the Paris Air Show. So James Inhofe of Oklahoma actually attended the show, was able to attend the briefing according to his office and catch an evening flight to France, demonstrating it was possible to attend the briefing on a major political issue and still join the plush Codell. The guy who used to protect your Facebook data now works for the NSA. So, wait to get down here. It says here, last week, Miley Riley of Bloomberg cited 4 people familiar with the process reported that thousands of companies work closely with the U.S. national security agencies by swapping sensitive trade information for benefits, including access to classified intelligence. So it says here that this report in the Atlantic, Silicon Valley, and private defense contractors built government surveillance system sheds light on the remarkably close relationship between private technology companies and the government. It says when Max Kelly, the chief security officer for Facebook, left a social media company in 2010, he didn't go to Google or Twitter or a similar Silicon Valley concern. Instead, the man who was responsible for protecting personal information of Facebook, more than 1 billion users from outside attacks, went to work for the National Security Agency. Snowden becomes 8th person to be charged with violating Espionage Act under Obama. A criminal complaint indicates former NSA contractor and whistleblower Edward Snowden has been charged with 3 felonies. The 2 felonies are charges under the Espionage Act. This is more than all previous presidential administrations combined. It's kind of like drone strikes. So, it says here it carries a 10-year maximum sentence if convicted, each charge. So, I mean, is this taking away the limelight or all the action for the Bradley Manning case or movement? Who knows? Deflecting attention from it. Senator says Russian Prime Minister Putin's acceptance of Edward Snowden a finger in the eye of the U.S. So this guy was found in, he was supposedly going to Ecuador, possibly Havana, Cuba. He was in Hong Kong, and he was on a flight. Into Russia. So Snowden leaves Hong Kong on commercial flight to Moscow seeking political asylum in Ecuador. We can surmise that the information was leaking anyways, and so the government needed a distraction, something connected to the NSA, so covering it would still feel like covering the NSA story, but that would divert much of the press from covering the actual programs, and it's worked. Everyone's talking about Edward Snowden. The whole world knows what flight he was supposed to be on this morning and which countries he's considering as safe harbors. The term stellar wind, by contrast, has largely dropped out of the news, or prism in that. Operation Snowden has become the NSA story. So, of course, Snowden wasn't on that plane. He couldn't have been. If he disappeared into Cuba, the Snowden story would have been over, and all that would have been left out. All that would be left of the NSA story, and that's not the plan. So, yeah, Snowden's plane lands in Havana. NSA leaker is not seen aboard. But I've heard stories about how Bradley Manning, the whole thing is a fabrication, and that even this individual, Snowden, doesn't exist. I'm not sure how much truth or validity there is to it, but I do think that the Snowden thing is a distraction for something. I've mentioned before that I've been wondering over the last year if there's been all these kind of small, different scale type wars that are going on within the government with military brass. Who's going to take orders to carry out drone strikes against Americans, or who's going to do this or that, or who's really nationalistic, because you can't be nationalistic anymore. You have to be internationalistic. You have to be global. In order to do that, you have to basically cede, national sovereignty. So this could be used to basically send a signal to those types of people. Was Tamerlan Tsarnaev a double agent recruited by the FBI? So that's what they're asking. So there's a strong possibility that Tsarnaev, the older of the 2 brothers, was a double agent, perhaps recruited by the FBI. He would be just one of thousands of young people coerced by the FBI as a price for settling a minor legal problem into a dangerous career as an informant. Then we have this one. MI5 and MI6 tried to recruit me. Younger brother of Woolwich, murder suspect, says threatening British spies made 11 attempts to make him an informant. So, U.S. surveillance best suited for gathering information on law-abiding citizens. So it goes on there, it says, what they fail to realize is that the surveillance systems are best suited for gathering information on law-abiding citizens. People concerned with online privacy tend to calm down when they told that the government can record their calls or read their email only under special circumstances with proper court orders. The assumption is that they have nothing to worry about unless they are terrorists or correspond with the wrong people. However, this may only be good for gathering information on the stupidest, lowest-ranking terrorists. The PRISM surveillance program focuses on access to servers of America's largest internet companies, which support the popular services as Skype, Gmail, iCloud. So, next up, a video here. DARPA computer geek talks about hacking cars. Dr. Kathleen Fisher, DARPA program manager. In the video, she talks about the ability to hack into car computer systems. She explains how it's possible to remotely control modern cars through Bluetooth and smartphone technology. Her talk demonstrates that such an ability exists and the Pentagon has researched it. Fisher makes the comments within the first 3 minutes of the following video. You can go check that out. Is the government spying on you through your own computer's webcam or microphone? I would just go out on a limb and say yes, they do, but you can go in there and read it. It's a pretty good article. So remember this Washington Post article saying that the government can quite literally can watch your ideas as they form. So even if it's just the tip of the iceberg. Back in 2011, German police were using spyware to turn on the webcam and microphones on people's computers, capable of turning computers' webcam and microphone into a sophisticated surveillance device. It says Reuters documented last year that the U.S. and Israeli government can remotely turn on computers' microphone. Dubbed Flame may have been built on behalf of the same nation or nations that commissioned the Stuxnet worm that attacked Iran's nuclear program in 2010. Flame can gather data files, remotely change settings on computers, turn on PC microphones to record conversations, take screenshots, and log instant messaging chat. Managing director of British-based DTEC Systems cybersecurity company says the scary thing is, if this is what they were capable of 5 years ago, I can only imagine what they are developing now. California Senate passes bill requiring permit to buy ammunition. Once again, Sacramento proves that to go really over the top, you've got to go to Democrat California. So they passed this week and improved a collection of bills, including SB 53, that would require background checks, permits, and fees for purchases of ammunition. Chicago police accused of using gun to sodomize innocent man. They wanted him to snitch, a disturbing lawsuit alleges. Chicago police sodomized a man with a gun until he agreed to become a participant in a drug sting. They're suing the police officer Jorge Lopez in the city of Chicago for excessive force relating to the incident. Don't want your mugshot online for eternity? Pay up. There's websites that are charging hundreds, even to those whose charges were dropped. It says after 7 years, this individual, at 2800 move, he thought he left behind his arrest, capped a bitter breakup until he searched the internet last month and came face to face with his 2006 mugshot. The information below the photo, one of millions posted on mugshots.com, didn't mention that the apartment Jones was arrested for burglarizing was the one he recently moved out of. So, or that Florida prosecutors quickly dropped the case. So it's an increasingly common phenomenon. It says here that the sites, some charging fees exceeding $1,000 to unpublished records, have prompted lawsuits in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Utah. It's pretty crazy. Senior citizens going to court over bird feeder. Feeder provides solace to homebound senior, but New Jersey neighbors complain. So 2 New Jersey seniors may find themselves in court for unauthorized bird feeding. They received a summons to appear in court over a feeder in their garden that's prompted complaints from the neighbors. It says feeding wildlife is generally banned, though enclosed hanging feeders are allowed. So the senior is disabled and can rarely leave the house. The feeder is one of the few things that he gets pleasure out of, but the neighbors were upset when it attracted other animals like deer and squirrels who, quote, decimated pricey plants. Says here they now face a fine of up to $500, but to me it's like, what's going to be next? Says Annette, I'm going to be walking around my yard in shorts and be told I'm ugly and bringing down property values. NASA, global warming, and transhumanism. So in 2011, NASA and their corporate partners presented their plans for the future of mankind. NASA is responsible for promoting man-made global warming and the false reporting of global temperatures, their assessment of the value of human beings. That humans have rapidly decreasing to negative value added. NASA and its corporate partners are not friends of the people. So it goes on here and it says here, the NASA, the future of war presented in 2001 is really grim. Our future depends on us understanding who is looking out for our welfare and who is seeking to exploit or harm us. This is interesting. Which part of climate change can be attributed to intentional weather modification? Experimental weather modification coming to your neighborhood from 2007 document goes on here and says HAARP was classified in 1987. It's an ionospheric heater. Did you know HAARP was approved just prior to the Club of Rome's report in 1991 that proclaimed global warming as a real threat and blamed humanity, not corporations or the globalist war machine for it? It was founded by eugenicist Rockefeller. NASA is heavily engaged in transhumanism, in that movement, and the Frankenstein's creation of a brave new world. Now this is where it gets interesting. NASA's Bio-Nano-Robo-AI, at least NASA admitted back in 2001 that they had particular concerns about the high-tech non-solutions. Self-replication, brilliant robots, nano-replicators. So, the bio aspects, the negative consequences of their GMO experiments have already materialized. Nano and their geoengineering is also having bad effects on trees and vegetation. 2005, NASA noted in October 2005, increasingly persistent contrails forming man-made clouds and haze are trapping warmth in the atmosphere and exacerbating global warming. See, this is what I've talked about. NASA goes on to note that any increase in global cloud cover will contribute to long-term changes in the Earth's climate. So we've had floods all around the country and that, in the U.S., especially Texas, and that death toll in India, monsoon floods jumps to 556. So this is from the 21st, but almost 600 people were dead. So then you have 4 feared dead in Canada as floods paralyzed Calgary, and economic losses from Central European floods to exceed insured losses. European insurers well positioned to handle claims, they say. Next up, Indonesia starts cloud seeding to fight smog. So get that, huh? They're going to cloud seed, attempt to put out the blazes, and probes plantation firms suspected of starting the fire. So we're talking about shifting, water, bringing water to places, flooding them. That's what they do with this engineering of the weather. You get flooded, you get more than usual rain, precipitation, and then of course in other places it'll be dry. They're having to move water and precipitation from one area to the next. 1961, JFK announced weather control at the United Nations General Assembly. We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control, says John F. Kennedy, September 25th, 1961. We know about Project Storm Fury, an attempt to weaken tropical cyclones by flying aircraft into them and seeding with silver iodide. It was run by the United States government from 1962 to 1983. HAARP status in North America from June 22nd. It's pretty high in the west, and the central states is at low medium, and we're talking about current long wave frequency magnitude readings, and it's pretty low as far as the east coast goes. Pollution reduced frequency of North Atlantic hurricanes, says study. Higher levels of air pollution reduced the frequency of North Atlantic hurricanes and other tropical storms for most of the 20th century, a study finds. It says evidence for mankind's impact on the weather system. The probe found a link between these powerful storms and aerosols, the scientific term for specks of matter suspended in gas, or also spraying of chemicals, i.e. nanoparticles and silver iodide and aluminum and barium. It's pretty funny. I wonder, you see if they just tell the damn truth, they'd actually mention that that they're creating these big hurricanes and that. Beijing pollution so bad that international schools built filtered air domes for children. As many in the city have been kept inside for months, with luckier children getting the chance to exercise under huge air-filtered domes that their international schools have built. Putting America under a magnifying glass, Stephen King's Under the Dome. So it's a question, what would happen if an average little town were suddenly cut off from the world? What would happen to society as a whole, families and trade? So I'm just going to leave off here, and I'm going to segue into a fourth video. This is GGN, I'm Darko. Thank you.